Ryan Reynolds, who until recently was known as a beloved co-owner of the Wrexham Football Club,
has been officially removed from his ownership position. The news came swiftly, and with an intensity no one saw coming. What made it even more astonishing was the stated reason behind this drastic action: fallout from a string of falsehoods tied to his wife, Blake Lively. How did matters escalate from a charming, offbeat, Hollywood meets soccer fairy tale to one of the most talked about upheavals in global sports entertainment? Insiders are scrambling for answers. Public sentiment is all over the map. And while Wrexham supporters grapple with the sudden departure of a co-owner they had grown fond of, the larger world looks on, trying to unravel the bizarre set of circumstances that led to such a dramatic outcome. From the moment Ryan Reynolds first joined forces with Rob McElhenney to purchase Wrexham, fans greeted them with a mixture of amazement and hope. To many, it seemed like a quirky Hollywood dream come true. Two comedic actors investing in a historic Welsh football club, promising to lift it to new heights. Stories about Ryan's hands-on approach, how he would attend games, interact warmly with local fans, and tweet out supportive messages helped shape an image of an owner who was not only financially invested, but emotionally connected. It was a refreshing change from the all-too-common scenario of distant investors who rarely set foot in the club's home ground. For more than a year, supporters embraced this new era, crediting Ryan and Rob for injecting optimism and resources into a team that had long struggled to make its way back into higher competitive tiers. Simultaneously, Ryan's personal life with Blake Lively was a fascination for pop culture fans. The couple's witty social media banter, interviews brimming with laughter, and collective star power made them a charismatic duo. People delighted in the notion that these two celebrities had found a measure of normalcy in each other's company. Yet, beneath that polished exterior, unanticipated tensions were simmering. According to multiple accounts from individuals close to them, Blake's involvement in a separate project, an adaptation of the novel It Ends With Us, directed by and co-written with Justin Baldoni, was the catalyst for the troubles that would later spill over into Ryan's professional undertakings at Wrexham. At first, the It Ends With Us adaptation seemed like the perfect vehicle for Blake. Rumors suggested she was excited to dive into a character-driven story, one that had garnered significant buzz in literary circles. With Justin Baldoni's track record of heartfelt storytelling, fans expected a smooth, collaborative environment. But soon, word began filtering out that something was amiss. Friction on the set. Rumors of constant rewrites and suggestions that Blake felt overshadowed by Justin's creative control gave rise to drama. Although Hollywood is no stranger to behind-the-scenes hurdles, the sudden intensity of these rumors was surprising. Initially, reports pinned the responsibility on Justin, implying that he was overly strict, perhaps trying to sideline Blake's input. Some observers leaped to Blake's defense, recalling how female leads could be sidelined in an industry historically dominated by certain power dynamics. Yet it was not long before contradictory information appeared. Extended text logs from the production circulated among select industry insiders, suggesting that Blake might have been shaping a self-serving narrative. Among these revelations were messages in which she hinted she could ask Ryan to intervene, leveraging his connections and public platform to sway. Though the specifics were cryptic, they strongly implied that Ryan's star power could pressure certain stakeholders and media outlets to highlight negative angles regarding Justin. In essence, she seemed to be counting on Ryan's popularity to stir up the kind of sympathy that would paint her as the aggrieved party, while also casting others in an unfavorable light. For a time, these revelations stayed within a fairly limited circle, but once the rumors grew, they reached Rob McElhenney. The comedic actor who had established a genuine friendship with Ryan through their shared Wrexham ownership found himself receiving conflicting accounts. On one side, stories about Justin Baldoni's frustration at being mischaracterized. On the other, Blake's claim that she was simply standing up for herself. Rob was reluctant to become entangled in a personal dispute that, at first glance, did not concern him directly. Meanwhile, Ryan had apparently tried to stay neutral, continuing to post cheerful updates about Wrexham and praising the community that had welcomed him so wholeheartedly. However, cracks began showing when additional controversies from Blake's set spilled onto social media. fans noticed a shift in Ryan's normally jovial tone. Some speculated that the stress from Blake's challenges was affecting him. Then, the real tremor started when a few of Wrexham's board members got hold of documents indicating that Ryan might be using his co-ownership role to assist Blake in ways that were not entirely aligned with the club's best interests. The precise nature of these actions remained vague at first, but the mere suggestion that Ryan could be mixing personal drama with the operational responsibilities of Wrexham ownership rattled loyal supporters. Early statements from the board offered little detail other than acknowledging ongoing discussions about Ryan's stake in the club. This alone was enough to alarm fans. Social media erupted. Some insisted that even if Ryan had made a mistake, the value he brought to Wrexham was too great to cast aside. Others wanted clarity, feeling uneasy about the swirling speculation. Then came the bombshell, a formal announcement that Ryan had been removed from his position as co-owner, citing breaches of trust related to misinformation. The club's official communication remained diplomatic, pointing to actions that the board believed endangered Wrexham's integrity. No direct mention of Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni was included, but industry watchers made the connection almost instantly. In the days that followed, more details leaked, enough to confirm that the controversies around Blake's film project had spilled into Ryan's management decisions at the club. Whistleblowers alleged that Blake had told Ryan to use his influence at Wrexham to curry favor among journalists or to deflect negative coverage related to the It Ends With Us production. In one instance, Ryan was reportedly asked to provide exclusive interviews to particular outlets in exchange for gentle coverage of Blake's troubles on set. These maneuvers might not have been glaringly obvious in isolation, but compiled into a broader narrative, this unsettling pattern. Rob McElhenney, feeling blindsided, stepped into a difficult position. He had advocated for Ryan when the two pitched the dream of revitalizing Wrexham. The comedic synergy they shared spilled over into a dynamic that made fans love them as a duo. Now, he was forced to navigate a tense environment, responding to questions from the club's board and from supporters who felt betrayed. Initial calls for an internal review eventually escalated into a request that Ryan step away while the matter was investigated. He complied, at least in the short term, but behind the scenes, tensions ran high. Ryan apparently argued that he was just trying to protect his wife during a rough patch in her career, never intending to harm the club or compromise its interests. Behind closed doors, some board members might have been sympathetic to Ryan's predicament. After all, no one invests in a relationship expecting it to blow back on their professional obligations. But the reality was that any hint of behind-the-scenes manipulation at Wrexham threatened the club's credibility. A newly minted ownership group, particularly one from Hollywood, could ill afford to be seen exploiting the team for personal agendas. The board concluded that letting Ryan remain, given the swirl of allegations, was a risk they could not take. And so they acted decisively, removing him from the position he had once embraced with so much enthusiasm. The public statement was brief, but damning by implication. It described a breakdown in trust and cited patterns of misrepresentation. While it stopped short of saying Ryan deliberately deceived anyone, it highlighted the potential damage done to the club's reputation. Rob was left as the remaining high-profile figure from the original takeover. An awkward situation for a man who once treasured his partnership with Ryan. As a source of comedic creativity and entrepreneurial optimism, Rob's social media channels fell silent. The sense of loss among supporters was palpable. Fans who had pinned their hopes on the comedic duo's commitment to the club found themselves reeling from the abrupt shift. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, gossip about Blake's involvement in the fiasco ran rampant. When her attorney withdrew support in the midst of her earlier disputes with Justin Baldoni, many suspected something significant was being concealed. Those suspicions intensified when accounts surfaced of text messages in which she apparently referenced controlling how the press reported on her difficulties. Some claimed Blake saw Ryan's Wrexham ownership as a strategic asset if she could harness the popularity around the quirky soccer project to overshadow criticisms of her film meltdown. She might emerge with minimal reputational harm. Precisely how much Ryan consented to this approach became a topic of heated debate. Did he knowingly combine Wrexham's marketing channels with an effort to shape coverage? Or did he find himself caught up in a dynamic he had little chance to untangle? For fans of the club, it was a rude awakening. If these allegations were true, then a cherished chapter in the club's history was tainted by the manipulations of a Hollywood star. Supporters posted emotional reactions online, some even burning replicas of the famous Wrexham shirts that Ryan had popularized. Others refused to believe the story, dubbing it sensational. Nonetheless, the board had already made its decision. Even if further evidence surfaced that absolved Ryan of wrongdoing, the damage felt irreversible. The synergy that once existed between him, Rob, and the Wrexham community was broken. Journalists rushed to track down Justin Baldoni's viewpoint, given that the entire fiasco seemed to trace back to tensions on his movie set. Justin largely stuck to neutral statements, emphasizing that he had tried to maintain an atmosphere of mutual respect. He said he regretted seeing any negativity harm external parties, namely Wrexham, but did not wade into the specifics of Ryan's alleged role. His silence on those matters fueled speculation. Some interpreted it as a sign that he was still gathering facts, or perhaps trying not to inflame an already sensitive situation. Others believed he was simply relieved that attention had shifted away from his creative process. Even as the dust settled over Wrexham's stunning announcement, new angles emerged. A producer from It Ends With Us privately shared that there had been attempts, allegedly led by Blake, to smear potential dissenters within the production, using social media claims that portrayed them as incompetent or biased. And while Ryan was never directly implicated in those efforts, some of his communications with the production team hinted that he encouraged the use of diversionary tactics. Observers read that phrase as code for ensuring negative stories were drowned out by more appealing narratives, possibly involving the excitement around Wrexham's renaissance. Of course, if that was the plan, it backfired spectacularly once the club's leadership realized what was going on. In the swirl of rumor and reaction, people couldn't help comparing this fiasco to other Hollywood controversies, in which text messages, contradictory statements, and dramatic shifts in support reshaped a star's public persona. Unlike those earlier dramas, Ryan's predicament involved an entire football club, which had become a symbol of community pride and rebirth. Wrexham had gained new fans worldwide, thanks in large part to the comedic stylings and genuine enthusiasm Ryan and Rob brought to their ownership. Now, with half of that duo gone under suspicious circumstances, some wondered whether the renewed global interest in the team could endure. Would Rob manage to rally local support and keep the positive energy going, or would the heartbreak overshadow the momentum they had built? As if to underscore the gravity of the situation, the club's official statement was followed by an extraordinary members' meeting. Season ticket holders and local supporters demanded clarity, forming a line outside the stadium to voice their concerns. While the exact content of the meeting remained confidential, sources reported that the board addressed a litany of questions about how such a fiasco could have brewed behind the scenes. Did no one see the signals that Ryan's personal life was bleeding into club affairs? How could the leadership group ensure no further vulnerabilities existed? The board answered as directly as it could, emphasizing that they had taken immediate action the moment they suspected a breach of trust. They expressed regret for any confusion among supporters, yet they stood by their decision to remove Ryan. Meanwhile, Ryan took to social media for what some felt was a half-hearted explanation. He insisted that his love for Wrexham was genuine, and that any confusion arose from overzealous attempts to protect his wife. Though he apologized if anyone felt misled, he didn't address the specifics, particularly the insinuation that he had orchestrated press coverage as a favor to Blake. Nor did he mention the text logs that had so thoroughly undermined her credibility. Critics pounced on his vague wording, suggesting he was skirting accountability. Fans who had once cheered his every tweet found themselves divided. Some thanked him for the good times, while others demanded a deeper, more genuine admission of his part in the fiasco. Rob McElhenney, for his part, released a short statement that came off as a blend of sadness and resolve. He expressed gratitude for Ryan's contributions, praising their shared early vision for the club. At the same time, he clarified that the board's unanimous move left him in a position where he had to support it for the well-being of Wrexham. Rob promised that the journey they began would carry on, that the club would remain in caring hands, and that the community would continue to be at the heart of every major decision. Fans found some solace in his promise, though many admitted it would take time to truly move forward from the scandal. Wrexham fans, for their part, demonstrate remarkable resilience. In online forums, they share memories of past crises, financial struggles, near relegations, changes of ownership that shook the club. Many maintain a hopeful stance, insisting that no matter what controversies swirl around them, the spirit of the team endures. They laud Rob for sticking by the community and making tough calls for the greater good. Indeed, some remain thankful to Ryan for the initial spark he brought, despite the abrupt ending. After all, they reasoned for a brief moment in time. The club gained worldwide recognition, fresh sponsorships, and the unwavering interest of supporters across continents. Ryan Reynolds' forced departure from Wrexham stands as one of the most jarring episodes in modern sports history. A story marked by alleged hidden motives, questionable tactics, and an astonishing fall from grace. The root cause, swirling around Blake Lively's contested version of events, underscores how swiftly personal ambitions can tangle with professional frameworks, especially in an age when social media and celebrity influence can reshape entire narratives overnight. Whether or not the full truth will ever be publicly untangled remains to be seen. The damage, though, is undeniable. A once harmonious ownership team is now fractured, a community's trust has been shaken, and an actress's professional credibility has been called into question. In the coming months, the conversations will likely shift away from the turmoil and back toward the football pitch, where the club must focus on performance and strategy. Yet, the memory of this controversy will linger, both as a piece of Wrexham lore and as an emblematic example of what can happen when Hollywood meets small-town passion and private agendas clash with communal dreams. If there is a silver lining, perhaps it lies in the determination of the Wrexham community to band together, weathering the disappointment and emerging stronger for it. As for Ryan and Blake, their next moves will be watched intensely, scrutinized for sincerity or opportunism, and filtered through the lens of a scandal that none of their fans ever saw coming.